Alrighty, Skwatter of the Sprites Templar back with hopefully the next two mysteries here. And that will be Mystified Murderess and Tin Soldier. Alright, let's do it. Boing. I've already solved that. What? What? Ah! Oh well, all its warts, hey, my buddy. Didn't I save a whole bunch of states here? Booyah. Yes. What? Fuck. Haha. Uh-oh. Stupid me, I saved a state instead of loaded it. Load state, another this one. Alright, well, as it said. Okay. Hopefully. I've already solved it, it's alright. Yes.
Society burglar strikes again. Series of burglaries. 6 over the period from June 2nd to June 17th. On July 2nd, the 7th occurred at the home of Sir Sanford Leeds. Cleopatra tiara stolen, it says. As in the other cases, no sign of extensive search by the thief, and only one piece of jewelry involved. Victims elsewhere at the time. Here's a complete list of the particulars, Holmes, if you'd care to read it.
I believe you'll find them in the study.
How do you do, gentlemen? I am Gerald Locke.
Please be seated, Mr. Locke. How can we be of service?
3 days ago, Guy Clarendon was found murdered at Halliday's. It's preposterous, but Miss Frances Nolan has been charged and is being detained at the criminal court, Old Bailey.
Frances Nolan. Ah, yes. Sister of Loretta Nolan. Only surviving heirs of Sir Malcolm Nolan, founder of the Aberdeen Navigation Company.
I seem to recall that Sir Malcolm and Lady Nolan were killed when some lunatic threw a bomb into their carriage. Seems to me that later I heard something about it being a case of mistaken identity. Wasn't one of their little offspring in the carriage with them at the time?
Yes, it was Loretta, Frances's sister. She was only 4. Miraculously, she was uninjured.
Mr. Locke, I've heard that you are a suitor for Miss Frances Nolan's hand, are you not?
Yes.
And was it not also true that she was being courted by Guy Clarendon?
Unfortunately, yes.
Have you any idea why Frances Nolan was charged with the crime?
Well, she was discovered over the body with a pistol in her hand.
That would do it.
But you don't understand. Frances is totally incapable of murder. Not even of a scoundrel such as Guy Clarendon.
Scoundrel? But he's from such blue blood. Also, if I'm not mistaken, he's an accomplished batsman for the West London Cricketers. A ranked fencer in international competition.
He was also a bit of a bounder, Watson.
What an understatement. Guy Clarendon was excessively fond of cards and strong drink. His father had all but disinherited him. I tried to tell Frances that Clarendon was no good, but to no avail. And now look at the mess she's in. Will you help?
Most certainly.
Alright, here we go. So, the Mystified Murderess. Goal: prove the innocence of Frances Nolan by finding the real murderer and solving the society burglar case. Alright, let's burn through this here. Wednesday, July 4th, 1888. For information in the newspapers, read the London Times. Let's see if I can open this up without it intruding on the gameplay screen. Yay! Okay. So, Friday, August 17th, Tuesday, March 5th, Friday, April 12th, April 11th, still April 11th, Wednesday, June 4th? No. Okay. Tuesday, June 10th. Tuesday, February 6th. I'm not seeing. Okay, I just fucking skipped over it, stupid me. Alright, let's see what we gotta do. Homie G. Who got it be now? So, Francis Nolan, okay. Francis J. Bailey, Entertainment's Personal Birth, Marriages, Japanese Village, Sporting, Deaths. No. Sporting. Doesn't look like anything like that. Ah, here we are. Cut. I see. Society burglars still at large. After a month of jewellery burglaries from some of London's most fashionable homes, Scotland Yard reports little progress in the identification and apprehension of the so-called society burglar. The victim of the latest theft, Lady Leeds, has become so overwrought by the invasion of her bedroom by this unknown man, and by the loss of her prized diamond tiara, that she has been hospitalized at the suggestion of her physician. Oh no. Although any impetus to attach the increasing problem of crime should be welcome, it is unfortunate that the impetus comes more strongly when the class of victims is expanded. I see. So that's all we need to read in the news. Alright, let's see where we need to visit. Let's visit Sir Francis Clarendon, or Guy Clarendon. Frank, I guess. Oh no. There's Clarendon, Sir Francis. What do you have to say about it? The butler told us the old man's son came round when we needed money. Also said a scar-faced ruffian was hanging about. Oh, I see. Clarendon, Sir Francis. Sir Francis Clarendon jointly owned several diamond mines in South Africa with Hiram Durf until Durf's death in 1881. He recently bought out all of his former partner's shares from the widow Bessie Durf. He and his wife Gertrude have one son, Guy. I see. Right. I think I should have just clicked down there. So let's go visit this bastard boy. Or maybe Guy. Let's see what we've got there. Okay, same thing. It's gonna be the same thing here. The son of Sir Francis Clarendon. Okay. Now, what's this Frank Clarendon? No one was there, Governor. We picked in all the windows. Nothing on file. They can go everywhere, hear everything, see everyone. Guy.
This is a difficult thing for a man to say about his only son. But Guy was a wastrel and a ne'er-do-well. Only a short month or so ago, I gave him £5,000 and told him that was the last he'd see of my money. I'd hoped the shock would bring the boy around, make him realize he had to settle down, instead of wasting his life on gambling and gallivanting around with that wild woman.
Which wild woman was that?
Loretta Nolan, of course.
You mentioned gambling, Sir Francis. Have you any idea with whom he gambled or who might have wanted to kill him?
I wish I did. He told us nothing. He only came around when he needed money. And when I told him there'd be no more, we never saw him. Just about broke his mother's heart. There, Gertie. We still have one another.
I've something you ought to know about Master Guy. One morning, rather early, about 4 or 5 weeks ago, I heard a terrible clatter downstairs, so I came down to investigate. It was Master Guy just coming home. He was in a terrible state, all battered and bruised, with a fresh cut on his forehead. I asked him who did it to him, and he wouldn't say. I think he was afraid for his life.
Gasp. The humanity of it all. Plus, you can tell that the wife hates the husband. Or Guy Clarendon. It says that, well, why not, you know? What does Guy do? If it's going to be the same thing, I'll just cancel it. Yes.
This is a difficult thing for me.
Okay. Now let's visit Cox and Company. I wonder if they're related to Cox's Boxes. Under bank. Okay. Cox and Company. What say you, Baker Street irregulars? Our favourite guy place. Unfortunately, they won't let us sample their wares. In fact, they won't tell us a thing. Bloody hell. Bless my soul. Cox and Company, a well-respected financial institution located in Charing Cross. Watson keeps all of the notices on my cases in a dispatch box in their vault. Let's go over.
Oh, look. There is a note on the door that says that they will be out all afternoon. It appears we have wasted our time.
Excellent deduction, Watson. You're finally learning.
Okay. Well, I visited it. Okay. Let's go to Hiram Davenport. Let's see. Solicitor for Loretta and Francis. Says only Francis listens to him. Probably why Loretta is practically in debt. He mentioned that during a meeting several weeks ago, it seems Francis was in a trance-like state and promptly walked out of the office, and Loretta seemed to be quite amused by it. Davenport Hiram, quite an overworked fellow. Specializes in setting up and administering estates. Never quite made the cut to barrister.
They had absolutely no information pertaining to this case.
I thought not, Watson. It appears that we've wasted our time.
Interesting. I'm just following the walkthrough. Edward Hall next. Edward Hall told us there is no way the guards would let us near Francis Nolan. Edward Hall is a young barrister at Old Bailey. He is a cut above the other unimaginative members of his profession.
I understand that Wilfred Robards is considering taking Miss Nolan's case. He might be able to help you. If you'd like, I can arrange an interview with Frances Nolan. She's being held downstairs, you know.
We might be able to help you, Miss Nolan, if you could just remember what happened that night in Mr. Clarendon's room.
Well, that's just the trouble. I can't remember anything except seeing Guy's body across the room and the pistol in my hand.
Where did you get the pistol?
I've no idea, though the police assure me it's mine. I didn't know Guy was at Halliday's. I've never even been there before. And why would I shoot him anyway? We loved each other.
There, Miss Nolan. Stiff upper lip.
Thank you.
Miss Nolan, what is the last thing you remember before the room at Halliday's?
Oh, hot cocoa in bed.
I beg your pardon?
Well, every night before I retire, my maid, Grace, brings me a cup of hot cocoa.
How nice.
Yes.
And before that?
Well, before that, I dine with Dr. Trevelyan, as I do every Sunday evening. My sister, Loretta, is under his care. The doctor and I have become good friends over the years. He left at 10 o'clock, as he always does.
May I ask, where did you first meet Guy Clarendon?
At the country estate of Cornelius Oldwine, in March. My sister, Loretta, was attending a party there. I suppose things got a bit out of hand because it seems she dived into a fountain. She caught pneumonia and I had to go and fetch her home. Guy was also at the estate, and that's where we met.
And he immediately began paying court to you?
Oh, heavens, no. Nobody seems to take much notice of me. I suppose that comes from having such a wildly attractive sister. That's why I was so surprised when he called a few weeks later. We began seeing a great deal of each other. We went on long carriage rides, had picnic lunches. It was all quite lovely. And then on the 5th of June, he declared his love for me and asked for my hand in marriage. I was so happy. I couldn't have killed him.
How do you explain your presence at Halliday's?
Well, I can't. It's just like the other 2 times.
You've had memory losses before.
Yes, twice in the past month. The first time I found myself atop a horse in Hyde Park, with no recollection of how I got there. The last thing I remember was having lunch with my sister Loretta. Then there I was, atop a chestnut mare.
How peculiar.
The funny thing is, I'm terrified of horses.
You mentioned there was a second time.
Yes, a few days later, I met with my solicitor, Hiram Davenport. Then the next thing I know, I'm at the Newgate Street station. I consulted my physician, Dr. Mason, and he was quite as baffled as I was.
One last question, if you will. What is your relationship with Gerald Locke?
Oh, Jerry, he's a dear old friend. Though I'm afraid we had a falling out of late.
Uh-oh. Well then, okay. A falling out, okay. Well, what can you do? We'll just have to assume that's what it meant. Let's see, well now that she said Hiram Davenport, let's see if he's gonna be there now.
They had absolutely no information pertaining to this case.
I thought not, Watson. It appears that we've wasted our time.
Dame with the mate. Alright, Halliday's private hotel. Halliday's private hotel. Your Guy Clarendon registered under the name of Clarence Guy. What was he trying to hide? Halliday's private hotel, located on Little George Street, site of the murder of Joseph Stangerton. Okay. Hopefully something will come of it. Yes.
Clarendon, poor chap. He arrived on the 29th day of May and was given a front room on the 3rd floor. 2 days later, he asked to be moved to suite 205.
To your knowledge, did he have any visitors?
Only 2 that I'm aware of. One was a most disagreeable fellow. He was rather large, had a thick walrus moustache, and a very prominent scar down his cheek. He arrived on the 1st of June, the very day of Mr. Clarendon's move. He simply came in, sat down in the lobby, and waited. 20 minutes or so later, Mr. Clarendon came down from his room. The big man yanked him aside. I was about to send for a bobby when Mr. Clarendon signed me that all was well. After a few minutes, they left together. I never saw the man again. His other visitor, who came by quite frequently, was a most striking woman. She was quite fashionably dressed. She had a most distinctive laugh, very full and deep. I've no idea who she was.
Please, tell us about the morning of July 2nd.
It was about 9 o'clock when a woman entered. She was rather plain-looking, and I wouldn't have noticed her, except for the fact that she came in the front door, looking neither left nor right, and proceeded directly up the staircase. It couldn't have been more than 30 seconds later when I heard a bang, followed by a woman's scream. I dashed upstairs to the 2nd floor. The door to room 205 was open. Inside, I found the body of Mr. Clarendon and the woman who'd just come up. She was lying in a swoon in the center of the room with a pistol in her hand. I revived her with some whiskey. When she came to, she was totally disoriented. She had no idea where she was or what she'd done. When she saw Clarendon's body, she let out a shriek and dropped the pistol. I summoned the police.
Tell me, at what hour are the hotel's front doors locked?
Oh, 10 o'clock, sir. Anyone who arrives after that has to be let in by the night staff. Of course, Mr. Clarendon was never one of those. He was always in his room before 10.
May we see his room? What have we here, Walton? Appears to be a bank statement.
Oh, look here, Holmes. Appears the maid missed a spot in her sweeping.
Good thing she did, Walton. You're staring at evidence.
Blood.
What's this stain here?
Smells like a fine sherry.
Yeah,
Looks
I'll
like
bet.
someone's been celebrating.
Question is, was it with the body or over it?
Nothing much here. A couple of shirts and 3 pair of shoes.
But what you failed to notice, my dear Watson, is that one of the pairs of shoes is canvas and has been dyed black. Interesting. A sweater and trousers. An ensemble in black.
Not much of a view. All I can see is a brick wall of the building across the alley.
Ivy vines binding up a trellis.
I have no idea what he just said. Plus, I probably think that the lady was in a stupor because he gave her so much whiskey. Yeah. Alright, so that was Halliday's. Let's go to Porky. Porky. Porky Shinwell. Booyah. Have we already seen this? Shinwell told us Clarendon, Leach and Kilgore had a few cosy meetings at the Ivy Rat. Shinwell. I think I already saw this, but oh well. Porky Shinwell Johnson, also known as Porky Shinwell, has served 2 terms at Parkhurst Prison. Sorry, a lot of pork parks. He has forsaken his life of crime for that of an innkeeper. He is now the proprietor of the Raven and Rat Inn at 52nd Hall Street, EC. Alright. Let's go see Porky Shinwell.
Sure, I remember Clarendon. He and his lady friend used to stop in here from time to time. Usually on their way to Kilgore's gaming parlor or coming back from it. Rumor has it, Clarendon was into Kilgore for a sizable sum.
Do you happen to know how much?
£7,000 was the figure I heard. Got to the point Kilgore wouldn't allow him in the door. Clarendon made a big fuss till Gus Bullock stepped in. Clarendon backed down pretty quick. Don't blame him none. Nobody in their right mind would want to mess with the likes of Gus.
Do you think Bullock was involved in the murder?
Nothing you could tell me about that bloke would surprise me. Anyways, Kilgore makes it clear to Clarendon that he wants his money. Then, a month or so later, Clarendon comes in all smiles, and he and Kilgore getting on like chums. Figure Clarendon must have paid him back. Then, Calvin Leach steps into the picture.
Now, who's Calvin Leach?
Leach deals in what you might call stolen property. Square dealer, too. Give you one half the value of the article.
What does Leach have to do with Clarendon and Kilgore?
Usually nothing at all. But there it is. Leach, Kilgore, and Clarendon meeting late at night just as thick as thieves. The meetings continued on right up to, well, the night before Clarendon's death.
Very interesting.
Now, we've been standing here jawing, and I don't recall hearing anybody order nothing. What'll it be, mate?
Huh. Really, Mr. Porky? Oh, Porky. I think I missed an article in the newspaper. Boing. Boing. Yes, society burglar climbs to 14,000 quid. That elusive and so far successful burglar, commonly known as the society burglar, has gotten away with jewels valued at 14,000 quid by the 7 victims to date. Speculation continues as to the identity of the burglar, who seems to be acquainted with the various and sometimes ingenious hiding places of his victims' jewels. The other striking aspects of the modus operandi are the taking of only one select piece of each time and the occurrence of all thefts when the victims are not at home. Well, that makes it a lot easier. We have provided for the interest of our readers a list of the various jewels stolen and their values. 2nd June, R. Baker, diamond stickpin, 500 quid. 5th June, Hardinge, emerald bracelet, 1,500 quid. 8th June, Richmond diamond bracelet, 2,000 quid. 11th June, B. Lewin, ruby earrings, 1,000 quid. 15th June, Dearth, diamond necklace, 3,000 quid. 17th June, Judd, or maybe Jude, diamond pendant, 1,000 quid. And 1st July, Leeds, diamond tiara, 5,000 quid. Interesting. Indeed. Indeed. I'm gonna try going to Cox and Cam, or whatever his name is. Oh, that'll be under bank. Nope.
Oh, look. There is a note on the door that says that they will be out.
That they will be out all a long time. I thought that Hiram Davenport was also... Yes.
They had absolutely no information pertaining to this case.
Weird. Okay, well, let's go to S. Goff. Nope. What? 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 Ah! Goff, maybe? Oh, okay. That's weird. Now here's the place we haven't been in a long time. Mr. Goff told us a wild and beautiful young woman named Frances Nolan recently bought a gun. Wow. Looks like we got ourselves the murder weapon, and who bought it? Purveyor of used guns at 1/3 the original price. Located at 28 King Street, Covent Garden. They're not there.
Do you remember a woman who came in recently and purchased a Derringer?
Oh, matter of fact, I do, sir. We don't get women in here very often, especially not alone. And I particularly remember that one because she was so pretty and, she looked like she really knew how to have a good time, if you'll pardon the expression.
Do you remember her name?
I should say I do. She repeated it twice whilst I was filling out the order form. Seems like it was very important to her that I get her name right. Let me see, it was, Frances, well, it was Frances something or other, sir.
Interesting indeed. Dr. Percy Trevelyan. Like Alec Trevelyan, maybe he's his ancestor. From Goldeneye. Percy. Sorry, I don't have time to dig into this one. What the fuck are you wasting time for? Dr. Percy Trevelyan was a practicing physician at the Mesmer Braid Institute from 1878 to 1886, where he specialized in treating neurosis through hypnosis. He currently conducts a private practice close to his home on Brook Street. Interesting. Now I have to go back and select it. Collies.
Doctor, we understand that you dined with Frances Nolan on the evening of July 1st.
Yes, that is correct. We dine every Sunday. Her sister Loretta has been under my care for some 10 years. First at the Mesmer Braid Institute and then in private practice.
Without breaching physician-patient protocol, would you mind telling us the nature of her illness?
She never quite recovered from the overwhelming trauma of watching her parents being blown to bits.
I quite understand.
As is often the case with young orphans, they tend to create fantasies about their parents. Miss Loretta Nolan truly believes that her father was the King of England, making her a princess.
Do you think her unconventional behavior stems from that fantasy?
Absolutely. As a princess, she believes she can do no wrong. I must say that she's worlds apart from her sister Frances.
Do you know Frances Nolan well?
Yes, rather. Through my treatment of her sister, I've known her for years. Let me say that it is difficult to believe that Miss Frances is capable of murder. She has a quiet, unassuming personality. An act of such direct confrontation would not be at all in keeping with her character.
Were Loretta and Frances close?
I know without a doubt that Miss Frances loves and cares for her sister almost as a parent would a child. Miss Loretta, well, she loves her sister as much as she is capable of love.
Interesting. So that was Percy. Percival. Alright. Never gonna fucking get away from this. No.
They had absolutely no...
And let's just try the Cox box. Oh, that would be under bank. Nope.
Oh, look.
Oh, look. A complete waste of time, but it says that it's entirely necessary to see. Shipping. Aberdeen Navigation Co. Penny Whistle said he would only give information to the proper authorities. Founded by Sir Malcolm Nolan, Aberdeen's is sometimes referred to as Aberdeen Shipping Company with offices in the city.
Their father, Sir Malcolm, left them each a 1/6 share. Several years ago, as soon as she came of age, Miss Loretta divested herself of her stock.
I see. Divested herself of the stock, for God's sakes, huh? Let's try Disraeli O'Brien. So would that be under O? O'Brien. Loretta and Clarendon have both had a couple of minor scraps with the law, but no convictions. How the hell would they have known that? I mean, it's like you can figure out a lot by sneaking around, but like not that. Disraeli O'Brien is the head clerk of the Land Records Department at 14 Chancery Lane. He has a phenomenal memory when it comes to any legal records pertaining to the last 30 years. Well, let's see if these guys have anything to say.
Both Loretta Nolan and Guy Clarendon have had several complaints filed against them, although neither of them has ever been arrested. Both have been cited for public drunkenness. Likewise, both have been involved in some unusual pranks, but no one has ever pressed charges.
How interesting that. Next, it says go to Gus Bullock. Never mind the Bullocks. Bullocks. For showing this goon killed his own mother. Can't swear he off for Clarendon. Says he was roughing up somewhere else at the time. Gus Bloodthirsty Bullock has served 3 separate terms for murder. He has a permanently reserved cell at Parkhurst Prison. 3 separate terms for murder. What the fuck? You wouldn't put him in there for life or give him the death penalty after the first? Like shit. What's going on here?
Sorry, Holmes. No information here.
Then let's not dawdle, Watson. There's work to be done.
Okay. Bessie Dirth. Bessie. The old bag shooted us off her front steps, threatening us with a cane, she did. What a bitch. Bessie Dirth is the wife of the late Hiram Dirth, who made his fortune harvesting diamonds from the mines of South Africa. Dirth was in partnership with Sir Francis Clarendon.
My husband, God rest his soul, gave me that necklace for our 50th wedding anniversary. And woe betide the blighter that took it, I say.
I can certainly understand your consternation, madam. May I assume that you were out the evening it was taken?
Oh, yes, the house was completely empty. Sybil, my housekeeper, and I were attending the masked charity ball at St. Mary's for the benefit of unwed mothers. It wouldn't surprise me if that scoundrel was responsible in that direction as well. Society burglar, indeed. He's of the lower classes, mark my words.
Do you keep your jewels locked up?
Oh, I keep them in a very secret place. A box made to look like a copy of Great Expectations on the bookshelf amidst the other books. Hiram, my late husband, thought of that, but the thief went right to it.
Bloody hell, huh? H.C. Hardinge. Railway accident. Tonkin, Gulf of Tonkin. Just checking over the newspaper one more time. Alright, Harden. Got him leaving for Scotland. They said they were attending a dinner party given by Atlas Richmond. When they arrived home, his wife noticed that the bracelet was gone. And he was surprised that the burglar knew where it was, since his wife hides it in a compartment hidden in a dressing table. A most clever thief indeed. H.C. Hardinge is a distributor of excellent Harris tweeds in the London area. He moved back here in 1886 after residing for several years on the Hebrides island of Lewis with Harris. Strange names, I tell you.
They had absolutely no information pertaining to this case.
I thought not, Watson. It appears that we've wasted our time.
Call Lisa. Well, let's try Bradford Lewin. Bradford Lewin. Piece of crap. Couldn't get near the place. The butler turned us away from the door. Well, if that's the case, then that means there's probably something there.
We were at a reception at Buckingham Palace for the new head of the China delegation. Upon arriving home, my wife discovered that her favorite ruby earrings were missing. We noticed nothing else out of place. No sign of a search, that is. And none of the servants had heard anything suspicious.
Interesting indeed. Bradford Lewin was educated at Oxford University and now advises the Queen on foreign affairs. Alright, well, Dr. Gerald Mason. The doctor was doing an emergency appendectomy at St. Bartholomew's. Perhaps he'll be back by the time you get there. Okay. I'll rely on that then. Nothing on file. Oh, damn.
Tell us, Dr. Mason, have you determined the cause of Francis Nolan's blackouts?
It's the strangest thing, really. But I examined her thoroughly and found nothing physically wrong. She could not recall receiving a bump in the head, nor did she complain of dizziness. All I could suggest was perhaps she was overtired and prescribed rest. It remains a complete mystery to me.
So Jasper Meek. Blessed are the meek. The meek freak, that's what they used to call him. A meek freak is what I used to call him over at Oxford, yeah. Too busy to get this one today, Holmes. What are you doing? Clearly one of the best medical men in London. Before he became London's greatest medical examiner, he was a superb general practitioner. I will always be grateful to Watson for summoning Dr. Meek to my side when I lay ill. And of course his cocaine doesn't help.
You're quite sure the murder weapon was a small caliber pistol?
Quite. I'd also wager to say he'd been shot at very close range.
Ghastly.
Tell us, Sir Jasper, at what time did you receive the body?
Around 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
And how much time would you judge to have elapsed from the time of the murder?
Well, it's always difficult to be precise in these matters, but I'd venture to say he'd been dead anywhere from 4 to 10 hours.
Well, you can tell usually by rigor mortis because it doesn't really last a whole long time. Let's try H.R. Murray. Not Mortimer. Holmes, we found it, but he was asleep on his desk. Didn't take too kindly being bothered. Before he went home to sleep, he did tell us that Clarendon had been shot at very close range. He also found traces of alcohol on Clarendon's shirt. I guess he was partying before he got it. H.R. Murray is the head chemist at the Scotland Yard Criminology Lab. Old H.R. is a tremendous source of information, though his thoughts do tend to ramble a bit. That's why they call him Skwatter's Ramble-play. There is, however, no better mind when it comes to interpreting the physical evidence of the crime. Sorry, the orc from Warcraft came in.
All this way and not a clue to help us solve this case. How terribly disappointing.
You're telling me ho me G. Alright, it says Frances Nolan. Talk to her maid. Alright. Frances Nolan. The maid told us you could find Miss Frances locked up at Old Bailey. The younger sister of Loretta Nolan. See Loretta Nolan.
Tell us, who was at home on the evening of the 1st?
Well, just Miss Frances, sir. Oh, yes, of course, and Dr. Trevelyan.
At what time did the doctor take his leave?
Oh, let me think. It must have been 10 o'clock, because that's what time he always leaves.
What did Miss Frances do after her guest left?
What she does every evening, sir. Well, she asked for a cup of hot cocoa, which I brought her straight away. Then she read for a bit by the fire. Later, when I went up to bed, I passed her room, and the light went out.
What time would that have been?
Oh, let me see. Oh, I know, it was 11:30, because the clock chimed. Then I went to sleep. Later, I was awakened in the middle of the night, right in the midst of the most peculiar dream. You see, I was barefoot and trying to buy a pair of shoes,
As fascinating as all this is, could we get back to what it was that awakened you?
Oh, yes, of course. Well, it was something that I heard, or thought I heard. I listened for a bit, but that was the end of it, so I went to sleep again. Later, I awoke at 7:30. I always wake up at 7:30, except, of course, on Sundays when I sleep until 8. As usual, I began to prepare Miss Frances's breakfast. I had no sooner gotten to the kitchen when I heard the front door open and close. Well, I ran to the front window and peeked out, and there was Miss Frances walking down the street.
And why do you deem that so unusual?
Well, she never leaves before she's eaten one of my currant buns.
Could it perhaps be an imposter? So let's go to Loretta Nolan. I see. Don't know if it amounts to much, but we'd wager this dame is a bit off her rocker. If you had the way she laughs, you wouldn't doubt it. Frances and Loretta Nolan are the only surviving heirs of Sir Malcolm Nolan, founder of the Aberdeen Navigation Company on November 18th, 1868. Their parents, Sir Malcolm and Lady Nolan, were killed when an avowed anarchist, Zagreb Jablinski, hurled a bomb into their carriage. Interesting. Very interesting indeed.
Enter and be recognized. Oh, you don't wish to play Her Majesty, eh?
Very well.
You do not seem particularly disturbed by the recent turn of events, Miss Nolan.
Each of us grieves in his own way, Mr. Holmes.
It must be difficult for you to face the possibility that your own sister may have killed your dearest chum.
Guy was fun to be with. And as for Frances, I love her dearly, but, well, it's funny to think Miss Right and Proper has finally gotten herself into a bit of a jam.
Miss Nolan, may I ask, when was the last time you saw Guy Clarendon?
Let me think. I believe it was the Richmond's party last Thursday. Yes, I'm sure of it. God, we did cut it up a bit there.
And after the party?
We did not go home together, if that's what you're implying. That would have broken Frances's heart. She was head over heels for Guy, you know. She had some foolish notion that he was going to marry her. Not that someone like him ever would. But I do recall her saying, and it might have been the night of his death, that she was going to have a talk with him about their future.
Spaghetti. Well, I think, if I do say so myself, that it might be her who is the murderer. Cornelius Oldwine. Boing. Cornelius Oldwine. Strange name, that. He knows how to entertain. Told us about one party where Loretta Nolan had to be carted home by her sister Frances. Guy Clarendon was also there. I don't think you'll be able to talk to Oldwine because he is on his way to Rome to buy a sculpture. Well, we'll just wait and see. Born into a class of idle aristocrats, Cornelius inherited a large sum at the passing of his mother, Dame Crabtree, daughter of the late Lord Crabtree. I wasn't aware that that was an actual name. Yeah, okay.
I've rung the bell a half-dozen times and no one has come to the door.
Really, Watson? Next time I would appreciate it if you would thoroughly research your leads before you ask me to come along.
Sheesh, man, he's trying, okay. Langdale Pike. Pike said he was too busy to talk to the likes of us today. Well, maybe he'll talk to the likes of old me. Pike is a columnist and contributor to a number of London papers. He is an excellent source for gossip about the London scene. The Langdale Pikes are also a pair of scenic hills in Westmoreland, so I suspect that Mr. Pike's name is a pseudonym. Well.
It appears as though Guy and Loretta, the terrible twins, will afflict us no more. Loretta must be desolate, what with the loss of a kindred spirit and fellow prankster.
Prankster?
Well, yes, my good fellow. I'll never forget the time Clarendon poured champagne down the front of Lady Leeds's new Paris gown for the sole purpose of Loretta's amusement.
I would think she must also be distraught at the loss of her lover, not to mention the imprisonment of her sister.
Well, I'm not sure about Loretta's feelings toward her sister, but I do know that Guy and Loretta were not lovers. Though outwardly they made an excellent couple. He, tall, handsome, and from a moneyed family, and she, beautiful, and an heiress in her own right. Yes, it would have been a match made in heaven. But it was a match made in far hotter regions, I suspect.
Frances claims that she and Clarendon were engaged to be married.
Well, that's hard to imagine, him being who he is. Or was, as it were.
Why do you say that?
Well, Guy Clarendon was not at all a desirable sort. He'd all but been disowned by his own father for his compulsive gambling. The utter disregard for other people's money is probably what drew Clarendon and Loretta Nolan together in the first place. After all, she had managed to fritter away almost her entire fortune, unlike her sister Frances, who still had her inheritance, if not her honor, intact.
Oh, that explains it.
What are you driving at, Holmes?
From all I've heard of Clarendon, I suspect his interest in Frances was directed toward her sizable bank account.
Well, Otis Richmond. Richmond. Wanted to know if any of us had any experience as manservants. That's a good one. Other than that, we couldn't get a thing out of him. Otis Richmond is a self-made millionaire. His entire fortune comes from his railroad company holdings. He's retired, and these days he spends most of his time playing cribbage and giving lavish parties. Quite the lounge lizard. Nope.
It appears that they've just left. There are fresh footsteps retreating from the front door.
But look, Holmes, there are also some coming towards the door.
Terribly observant, Watson. However, the prints you are looking at belong to us.
Okay. Well, I guess Watson is kind of a moron. So, Somerset House. Will that be under House or Somerset? Somerset House. Booyah! Looks like the Nolan girls both got an equal cut of their old man's estate. He owned 1/3 of the Aberdeen Navigation Company. The Somerset House is located on the south side of the Strand at 17 WC. I don't know what that means. The office of the Registrar General of Births, Marriages, Deaths, and the Probate Registry are located here. It also houses the Commons Will Office. The records are open to the public.
It seems Sir Malcolm left his entire estate to his wife Margaret. If she should precede him in death...
Or accompany him, as proved to be the case.
Yes. Then the estate was to be equally divided between his two daughters, Frances and Loretta. The estate included a 1/3 share in the Aberdeen Navigation Company.
Alright, well... let's see what we can do.
Hear ye, hear ye. The Queen's Court stands in session. Mr. Holmes, I understand you've been looking into the murder of Guy Clarendon.
That is correct, my lord.
Would you be so kind as to tell the court who killed Mr. Clarendon? Please choose from either your notebook or directory, Mr. Holmes.
Certainly, my lord.
I will say it is none other than the bastard Guy Clarendon.
Sorry, Holmes, but my sources tell me you've chosen the wrong suspect.
Oh.
Unfortunately, I'm going to have to insist you start all over again.
Pity, Holmes.
What? What? Really? Are you being serious?
Hear ye, hear ye. The Queen's Court stands in session. Mr. Holmes, I understand you've been looking into the murder of Guy Clarendon.
That is correct, my lord.
Would you be so kind as to tell the court who killed Mr. Clarendon? Please choose from either your notebook or directory, Mr. Holmes.
Certainly, my lord.
Okay, so hopefully I can salvage this. I selected the wrong guy there. I was looking for the murderer of Guy Clarendon. Fucking stupid me, huh?
I see. And what was Loretta Nolan's motive for killing Clarendon?
Loretta only meant to scare him as a joke. She thought the gun was unloaded. She was jealous of his relationship with her sister, Frances. She had her eye on the Cleopatra tiara. She was no longer in love with him, Clarendon had named Loretta in his will, leaving to her all his worldly goods. It says, see.
Ah, greed. Pure and simple. Now, have you determined why Francis Nolan went to Halliday's?
I have, my lord.
Please inform the court.
Is it A, Dr. Mason told her it would help her bouts of memory loss? B, she was hypnotized by her sister Loretta? C, Sir Francis Clarendon asked her to deliver some money to his son? D, Loretta told her that Guy wanted to see her? Or E, Francis wanted to declare her love for Guy? It says B, which makes sense.
Not a very sisterly thing to do at all. Is there anything else you wish to report to the court?
Yes, my lord. I believe we've also solved the case of the society burglar.
You don't say. Who is the guilty party?
Remember, we may choose from either the notebook or the directory.
I believe we are already aware of that, Watson.
No, I wasn't aware of that. Thank you, Watson. Sherlock, you dick. The burglar. Here's what I did, yeah. Guy Clarendon.
Guy Clarendon was straight from the upper crust. Why ever did he turn to a life of crime?
He owed money to Calvin Leach. His father cut him off financially. Loretta Nolan dared him to. He was an accomplice of Gus Bullock's. Kilgore insisted that he do it to pay off the debt. The motive is B.
Congratulations, gentlemen. This was a difficult case.
On the contrary, my lord, it was elementary.
That's what you think. Nonetheless, the good people of London are forever in your debt. We thank you.
My pleasure, my lord. Well, Watson, we should be very pleased with ourselves on this one.
Yes, indeed, Holmes. 2 cases solved for Scotland Yard. Though I doubt that Lestrade will consider himself in our debt. 2? Yes, indeed. First, the society burglar. Clarendon was £7,000 in debt to the gambler Kilgore. Unfortunately, he was in his father's bad graces and he was flat broke.
Do you suppose Kilgore sent Bullock around to rough Clarendon up?
Good deduction, Watson. You're learning. That's why he moved into Halliday's, to escape Gus Bullock.
And to pay off his debts, he took to burglary.
Right you are. He acquired a black sweater, trousers, and a pair of black canvas shoes so as not to be seen or heard in the dead of night. He chose victims of his own class whose social comings and goings he knew well and whose homes he'd visited often.
I still don't understand why, after he'd settled in at Halliday's, he changed rooms.
Elementary, my dear Watson. To be at the back of the hotel with a vine-covered trellis conveniently leading in and out of his bedroom window.
Quite so. Positively clever of you.
May I continue?
Oh, please do.
On the 1st of June, Bullock tracked Clarendon down and confronted him in the lobby. Clarendon paid him the £5,000 that was given to him by his father.
But he still owed Kilgore £2,000. And that was the same evening the society burglar struck for the first time.
So pleased you've been paying attention, Watson. Soon after that, Clarendon, Kilgore, and Calvin Leach, a known trafficker in stolen goods, were seen together. Notice, if you will, that 1/2 the value of the first 3 society burglaries is equal to £2,000. Half the value being the price normally paid by Calvin Leach for stolen goods. Notice also that this same amount is equal to the balance of Clarendon's debt to Kilgore.
Fascinating. So with his new vocation, Clarendon now had an easy source of income.
Quite so, as his succeeding bank transactions evidence. On the day after each of the next 3 burglaries, Clarendon made deposits. Everything went along swimmingly, and by June 30th, his debt was paid.
But the tiara was stolen July 1st.
Yes, Watson. Apparently, young Clarendon thought he'd found himself a new vocation. He might have lasted longer at it if he'd chosen something else to steal.
Whatever do you mean, Holmes?
Loretta Nolan's delusion that she was born of royal parentage proved to be his undoing.
If she took it, how did she manage? No one saw her enter or leave.
She came and went the same way Clarendon did, via the trellis. She was armed with a derringer purchased at Escott's in her sister's name. Clarendon returned from his night's work and poured 2 glasses of wine in celebration. That's when Loretta Nolan shot him and took the tiara.
How wicked of her.
Not nearly as wicked as what she did next.
What?
She went to her sister Frances's home and hypnotized her. She then proceeded to instruct her to go to Clarendon's room with the derringer and fire it into the ceiling.
Incriminate her own sister? But why?
If we could determine that precisely, we could start our own institute.
Sick mind, no doubt. But tell me, Holmes,
How did Clarendon know the precise locations of each of his victims' jewels?
Excellent question, Watson. Although there is no clear-cut evidence for this, I can only assume that Loretta Nolan must have been in on it too. The only way Clarendon could have known the locations of the jewels was if the victims themselves had told him where to look. None of them recalls having told anyone, but in fact they did tell someone. Who? Loretta Nolan. She managed to hypnotize each of the ladies whose jewels were stolen and got them to reveal the precise locations of the family treasures.
And left them with no memory of having done so.
Precisely.
Astounding, Holmes.
Elementary, my dear Watson.
Dear Holmes, my word, dear Holmes. Perhaps we are in the wrong business altogether. If we had been top-notch, we should have cracked this case in 40 points. Perhaps we should consider opening a tobacco shop and leave the detective work to Scotland Yard.
Fuck you pieces of shit. I'm sick and tired of you saying that my score isn't as good as old Holmes's. Yeah, well, guess what? Bigger numbers mean a better score, do you hear me? You sons of bitches. Alright, well, I do believe that, that is the end of the second mystery. So, I have been Skwatter of the Sprites Templar, and I will return soon with the final third mystery. Bye. Alrighty, Skwatter of the Sprites Templar, back with the third and final mystery of Volume 1, Sherlock Holmes, Consulting Detective. Let's do it. Booyah.
May we be of some assistance, Inspector Smythe?
General Farnsworth Armstead, one of the 6 surviving Waterloo Tontine ticket holders, has been murdered.
Waterloo Tontine?
The Waterloo Tontine was a lottery of sorts, Watson. It was set up in 1815 to aid the veterans of the Battle of Waterloo. Wellington's victory over Napoleon.
Yes, of course, I knew that.
Quite an ingenious plan on the part of the founders. £1 bought a ticket in the name of some young relative. The ticket proceeds amounted to over £1 million. Half went immediately to veterans and their families for medical and hardship expenses.
What became of the other half?
It all went into an account at the Bank of England, where it's been collecting interest all these years.
Very clever. And how does one win this prize?
Simply by outliving all the other ticket holders.
And now you say one of them has been murdered. Very suspicious. Who are the remaining 5?
The oldest is Captain Robert Jurgens, age 82. Then there are Anita and Claire Thomas, who are 80-year-old twins. William Rowland is 79, and Peter Dudley is 77. Poor General Armstead was the youngest at 74.
Seems as if he would have had the best chance to outlive the others.
I recall reading something in the Times about a big to-do involving the Tontine survivors on the 18th.
That's correct. The Waterloo Anniversary Banquet at the Langham Hotel.
Why is the name Armstead familiar?
He was a noted art collector, I believe. He also authored a well-known book, Treasures of the Conquerors.
Quite right. At the time of his death, General Armstead was working on a revised edition for his publisher, Nurgat and Company. It was to contain an entirely new chapter on a fabulous diamond called the Polar Star, which at one point belonged to Joseph Bonaparte, Napoleon's brother. The general had new information which traced the gem to its present owner.
Tell me about the circumstances of General Armstead's death.
Oh, yes, of course. Well, let me see. At 10 o'clock this morning, the general's valet, David Sennett, admitted a caller to the general's study. Sennett says he did not know the man. He was elderly and spoke with a French accent. Sennett told him the general never saw anyone in the morning while he was at work. The gentleman insisted that if Armstead read the letter he had with him, he would make an exception. And so it was. Sennett took the letter in, Armstead read it, and went quite pale. He told Sennett to let the gentleman in. Sensing something amiss, Sennett dawdled in the area of the study for the next 15 minutes or so. Then he heard the distinct sound of swordplay. He tried to enter the study, but found the door locked. Then he heard the crash of breaking glass. He raced to the kitchen and out the back door to enter the study from the garden.
By the time he got there, the caller had vanished, and the general was leaning heavily against a shattered display case of military miniatures. Before Sennett could assist him, he dropped a saber from his hand and fell over dead.
And I take it the letter which so upset the general was nowhere to be found.
Correct, Mr. Holmes.
Well, we shall put our brains and our feet to the task.
Alrighty, right. Another walkthrough mystery. Goal. Solve the murder of General Farnsworth Armstead. Alright. Well, if that is the case, you must visit the following to solve this case. Looks like there's no newspaper reading. Okay. Let's go to General Farnsworth Armstead. Okay. Let's see what these guys have to say. The general was killed by some old codger who walked with a cane and carried a carpet bag. I'm not sure if I can trust that there. General Farnsworth Armstead, Tontine, is that what they said? Ticket holder, decorated soldier of foreign wars, and author of Treasures of the Conquerors.
I found the general leaning over the display case. He had his saber in hand, the one that usually resides above the fireplace.
I understand he was a collector of military figures.
Yes, the display in the study shows the last great British charge that swept the French from Waterloo.
Is there any significance to the fact that the figure of Napoleon is facing backward?
How strange. Perhaps I should go and set it straight.
No, don't touch it. Not until the police have concluded their investigation.
Oh, yes, of course.
I also noticed the portrait over the display case.
The late Mrs. Armstead.
Do I detect a note of hostility?
I must admit we did not get on very well. But I might say that Mrs. Armstead did not get on very well with anyone, including the general.
You mean they didn't marry for love?
Hardly. Lord Fitch, Mrs. Armstead's father, arranged the match. Her dowry was very generous. Lord Fitch would have paid any amount to ensure that he would not be left with a spinster daughter, especially such a nasty one.
If there was no love lost between them, why did he keep her portrait in his study?
Actually, it was put up there to needle Mrs. Armstead's brother, the present Lord Fitch. He never approved of the marriage. Even after her death, they were involved with mutual business affairs. They jointly owned stock or some such thing.
Tell me, do you know what the general was doing at the time the intruder arrived?
Yes, he was working on the new section of his book. The part that concerns the gem, the Polar Star. It was very interesting, really. It traces the ownership of the gem to the brother of Napoleon, to the Russian Count Rostov. Unfortunately, the gem was stolen from the Count 3 years ago. As a matter of fact, the general just received a letter from a Pierre Montan, who said that he was willing to divulge the name of the present owner of the gem for the agreed-upon fee.
Do you know where Mr. Montan might be found?
I believe he's staying at the Bridge House Hotel.
Did the general have any encounters with anyone out of the ordinary in the past several days?
Not really. An old friend of his has been in town, Jean-Paul Girard. Neither the general nor I have seen him in 40 years. In fact, they were going to meet this afternoon at the French embassy.
I'm obviously curious about the general's last visitor. Could you describe him, please?
He was an old man, a rather short fellow. He walked with a cane and carried a carpet bag.
Did he give a name?
No. He simply wanted to see the general, and he handed me a letter to take in to him.
Did you read it?
No. It was in an envelope, rather yellowed with age, though I noticed it was addressed in a graceful hand to Captain Armstead, 12th Hussars, the general's old regiment. When the general read it, he went very pale. Then he asked me to admit the gentleman.
Tell me, when you finally got into the room from the garden, were the study doors still locked?
Yes.
I noticed that there is an 8-foot fence surrounding the garden, and that the only way into the garden or out of it is through the kitchen door or the study.
How terribly observant, Holmes.
Interesting indeed. Let's go to the French embassy. L'embassy terrible. L'embassy so terrible. Musicalis tabarnak. Under embassies. Okay. Kerboya. French. On his way out for a meeting, he did tell us that he and the General were in War College together. While in France, Armstead had an affair with a French girl. I believe he was engaged to Mary Fitch at the time. Gerard said he called her Horseface because she was so ugly. I wonder why he didn't marry the French girl. Interesting indeed. French. Booyah. The French embassy is situated on the southern border of Hyde Park.
I can't believe we came all this way when there are more important things to pursue.
You know, I'm curious. They said that in one of the walkthroughs, they said that you could send these guys, the irregulars, to figure stuff out. So I'm wondering if I'm actually missing out on video clips by doing this. Like, maybe you can either do this or this. Interesting. Well then, I shall remember to always go to the place first. Because again, I can't just simply rewind this because it's on Utake and not RetroArch. Grand Hotel under hotels. Booyah! The Grand Hotel is located in Charing Cross, and it is one of London's most recently built hotels.
How fortunate that Inspector Lestrade authorized the hotel manager to allow us to search Philippe Arnaud's room.
Perhaps we can return the favor and solve a case for him someday. Today, for example. Let's look around.
How strange that a man who requires a cane would leave without it.
Perhaps he doesn't require it for walking.
Look here at the handle.
Well, that could certainly give a fellow a start.
Precisely, Watson. Look here. It appears to be a letter.
Looks quite old. It's addressed to Captain Armstead, 12th Hussars.
Shall I read it?
Please do.
Dearest, how I hated you for leaving me, but the child, our child, eased my heartache and muted the hate. Now my sweet baby is dead. How cruel that the innocent must suffer for the sins of others. Now I have nothing. Now I am nothing. I cannot bear the pain. Goodbye, I love you still, Fleurette. How tragic.
Why, perhaps this is the very letter that the General read.
Good thinking, Watson.
A miscarriage, or perhaps an early coat-hanger abortion. Oh, terrible, terrible. She deserves to be sent to hell, she does. Princess Theater. Well, let's see what these guys have to say. The hotel manager wouldn't let the likes of us around. Maybe you better have a look yourself. Alright. Princess Theater. Is it under a theater? Probably not. The Princess Theatre has splendid productions of the plays from France. The box office is open daily from 10 to 5.
Ah, but you must see Philippe perform. My nephew's an artist, a wonder. He manages to portray the Emperor Napoleon from age 19 until his last days on the island of Savernay. You would swear 5 different actors was playing the part, but no, it is only Philippe aging before your eyes. At 48, he's the toast of the continent.
You seem rather young to be the uncle of a 48-year-old man.
I am but 8 years older than Philippe, though I can assure you I am his uncle. You might say that our family has a history of late arrivals. Philippe's father was 25 years older than myself, and Philippe's poor sister was 15 years older than he.
Why do you say poor?
She died many years ago under tragic circumstances. In fact, her mother was so upset over her daughter's death that she was put into an asylum. We received word yesterday from the asylum that she had also passed away. It upset Philippe very much, resurrecting old ghosts, as you might say. But we have been playing for enthusiastic audiences for several weeks. As we say in the business, the show must go on. And Philippe is a trooper. He would never allow it to affect his performance.
Can you tell us where Philippe Arnaud is this morning? We should like very much to meet him.
Well, he is not here now. Our company is staying at the Grand Hotel. However, I believe today he is visiting the National Gallery. But if you would come back this evening, I will have tickets awaiting, and after the show, you are welcome to come backstage and meet him.
Interesting. Yeah, no. Funny thing on that, he's 8 years older than his nephew. My mom became an aunt when she was 11. Yep. Much older brother, got married young, had kids young. Doesn't happen like that anymore. Alrighty, right. Now... Let me in, you bastard! I want in!
I can't believe we came all this way when...
Yeah. Okay. Well. Other people, places to visit for this case, alright? Let's do it. Ainstree. Dr. Ainstree is a world authority on tropical diseases. Alright. And he's not here.
Pity. It appears that no one is in.
However, can you tell, Holmes?
There is a sign on the door that says, "We are gone for the day."
How terribly observant, Holmes.
Elementary, my dear Watson.
The good doc says he saw Lord Fitch at 10 o'clock. Alright. I guess something came from that. Bridge House Hotel. Is that under hotel or bridge? Nope. Hotel. Bridge House Hotel. Modest accommodations for businessmen and travelers, located near Hatham Grove.
How in the world did you hear about it so soon, Mr. Holmes? The body's still warm. Couldn't have happened more than 10 minutes ago.
Body? What body?
Well, the one what's upstairs in 203.
We're here for something else, actually. Looking for Pierre Martin.
Well, that's the very fellow what was done in.
Tell me, young man, do you know what transpired?
Well, Mr. Martin checked into the hotel on the 8th. He was a Frenchman. I didn't speak to him much.
Who discovered the body?
I did. Well, I came along to his room to deliver a wire. Here it is, sir.
Information still valuable. See me, Wells, Osborne, Norgate and Company, publishers. Tell me, did you see anyone suspicious hanging about?
No. No, sir. Well, actually, now that I think about it, there was a rather large man with a foreign accent. Russian, I think. He said that he wasn't sure about the address and that he'd only just arrived in London. He asked for Mr. Martin, and I sent him straight up. Well, he was rather well-spoken and well-mannered. I didn't think anything of it at the time. A few minutes later, he came down. He was practically running. I saw him go out the front door and hail a cab.
Was there anything amiss in the room?
Oh, I'll say. An inkwell was toppled on its side, left an awful mess on the carpet. Big blue spots and inky footprints right the way to the door. The manager will be in a fret when he sees it. Fortunately, there was no blood.
Perhaps he was strangled.
Well then. Boing. Practically tripped over a stiff who seems to be the fellow you're looking for. Interesting. Let's go to Underhill's De Kaiser's Hotel. Let's get some information on there. A fashionable stopping over spot for foreign dignitaries, well known in London for their superb watercress sandwiches. Oh boy, watercress. Yeah, it's like lettuce. God, that just sounds positively delicious.
Are you from the police?
Were you expecting the police?
I was. My valet, Vladimir, reported to me that his interview with Pierre Matin was decidedly unproductive, as he was dead when Vladimir arrived.
I see. Tell me, why did he go to see Matin in the first place?
It was in reference to a certain valuable possession of mine that was stolen some years ago by Pierre's brother, André. I was in Paris, and I read in the London Times that General Armstead was to revise his very interesting book to include a chapter concerning that possession. Originally, I came here to visit him.
Then how did you discover Matin's whereabouts?
Shall we say, someone made me aware that Matin was also in London, that he was the general source of information. But when the General Armstead was reported dead, I had no other alternative but to pay a call on Matin. So I sent Vladimir, an old man's legs, you understand, to speak with him.
Oh boy. What do these guys say? Rostov's valet, some bloke named Vladimir, was the one who found Martin's body. Okay. Well, let's go with Dudley. Peter Dudley. Hey, Peter Dudley there, boy. Dudley the Dragon. You remember that show? Way back in the day. What the fuck? Should be in D. Dudley. Peter. Okay, let's see. Peter Dudley is one of the Tontine ticket holders. Okay, let's go and see him. He's not fucking there!
This appears to have been a royal waste of time.
Why is that, Holmes?
There's not a soul in sight.
Well then, let's see what these guys gotta say. Mr. Holmes, Dudley was a right regular bloke. Says he never met the General. Alright. Lord Malcolm Fitch. Malcolm Fitch is the son of Lord Fitch and the grandson of the Earl of Leicester. I think that's how you say it.
I admit I strongly disliked Armstead. He was a cad who made my sister's life miserable. I argued at length with my father against the marriage, but to no avail.
But what was your sister's opinion at the time?
Well, unfortunately, Mary was not the attractive sort who had scores of suitors. My father was afraid she'd be left a spinster. The engagement was arranged just before Armstead went to France. During the year he was gone, I had him watched and discovered he was in the thick of some scandal involving a young French girl.
And you told your father?
Well, he wouldn't listen. I even went so far as to give the story to the newspapers. But my father got wind of it and used his influence to prevent its publication. I would have done anything to keep my sister away from that man.
Including murder?
Why, that's preposterous. Well, surely you don't think... I was scheduled to meet with Armstead today. But you see, my wife took ill. I spent the whole morning attending to her here until Dr. Ainstree arrived at around 11 o'clock.
He's got an alibi. He has got an alibi. He's ugly. Hey, stuffy bloke wouldn't let us pass his front gate. Nervy sot. Oh, burn. Next, Robert Jurgens. Jurgen. He's jerking off. Let's see. It's just another ticket holder. Probably not going to be home. Yep.
Pity. It appears that no one is in.
However, can you tell, Holmes?
There is a sign on the door that says, "We are gone for the day."
How terribly observant, Holmes.
Elementary, my dear Watson.
Elementary. Okay. The old geezer says his no-good nephew, Booth Lacey, has his eye on the tontine money. Also thought you'd like to know Jerkins gets about on a cane. Well-ity. Oh, you see that there? Alright, let's see Booth Lacey then. A common beggar, but very clever indeed, has been known to use numerous disguises in his endeavour to bilk the public out of their tuppence. Oh, I enjoy holding a tuppence in my hand.
What did you discover, Watson?
He wasn't in, Holmes, though his landlady suggested we might try the Red Bull Inn. The woman practically talked my ear off. Went on and on about how Lacey constantly plays up to his uncle, Captain Jurgens, who's one of those old gents with the ticket in the tontine. I thought she'd never hush up.
Landlady says Lacey's always buttering up to his uncle, some bloke called Captain Jurgens. She also said we could find Lacey at the Red Bull Inn. Alright. Well then. Let's go to London Bridge Station. Is it under a station or London Bridge? The railway station located in Bermondsey. It is the end of the line for the London, Brighton and South Coast Railway. Oh, yes.
Mr. Lacey, I see you still make your living by strapping your arms and legs behind you and fooling the poor public out of its tuppence.
Man's got to make a living somehow. What can I do for you, Holmes?
I want to ask you about the murder of General Armstead.
General who?
Really, Lacey. Perhaps you can fool some of the public some of the time, but you can never fool Sherlock Holmes.
Oh, that General Armstead.
Where were you at 10 o'clock this morning?
Where else would I be? I was at church.
You, Lacey, at church? It hardly seems like it.
I swear, at St. Mary's. They pass out soup and bread every morning at 9:30. The father will vouch for me. You can even ask him.
I may just do precisely that.
Sorry, Holmes. We must have missed him by air. Alright, let's go to the Red Bull Inn. Is it under R or Inn? Oh, maybe it's West Central, East Central. The Red Bull Inn is a working-class pub. It is located upon the road to the Priory School. Boing. Boing.
This appears to have been a royal waste of time.
Why is that, Holmes?
There's not a soul in sight.
Interesting. Not at all. Great place to knock down a couple points. By the way, that Lacey wasn't over there. He headed over to London Bridge Station. Yeah, I just saw him there. Just thought I could find out something else there, boy. William Rowland. William Rowland is a tontine ticket holder. Okay. Nope.
Sorry, Holmes. No information here.
Well, let's not dawdle, Watson. There's work to be done.
Alright. You know, for people who have to take a damn horse and carriage everywhere, they're certainly in a hurry. You'd think that they would give themselves enough time to get it anywhere. Said he knew the general and was sad to hear of his death. Seems like a right nice bloke. He's leaving to visit his son in America for a month. I'm sure he can't be a suspect. Oh yeah, I'll just trust what you say there, eh? You ragtag ruffians. Russian embassy. Oh boy. Russian embassy. My name is Jack Bauer. It's not Sherlock Holmes, it's Jack Bauer, and I'm going to the Russian embassy. All Russian immigrants must register here upon their arrival in London. Yeah, if only we could have that going on nowadays, huh?
Count Rostov, Watson.
Count Rostov, Holmes?
According to the woman at the embassy, he is the only Russian national who has arrived in London in the past few days.
But how will we find him?
He's staying at De Kaiser's Royal Hotel.
However did you deduce that, Holmes?
Elementary, my dear Watson. I asked.
And I think we've already met him. Count Rostov came into town a fortnight ago, and you can find him at De Kaiser's Royal Hotel. Alright, let's go. Air Parky. Air Parky. Oh, fuck, it's under Shinwell. God damn it. Boing. Boing. Sometimes they have different information. Yeah, no, it's the same bullshit.
Bloody shame it was about General Armistead's death.
How touching, Shinwell. You're really grieved to see him pass on.
Well, sure, I had me money on him. I should have trusted me instincts and gone with one of the ladies.
Captain Jurgens doesn't seem to have had much of a following, even at 25 to 1.
Nah, that's just Booth Lacey and his cronies, and that's really a sentimental bet. You see, Jurgens is Lacey's uncle.
I see, Mr. Parky. All right, you were betting on him, hoping that he would survive, but he actually died. I see. Not a very good idea. Don't you know that women normally live longer than men do, especially at this point in history? While the women are always at home doing nothing, playing with bobby pins, so the men are all out working, you know. You should really have your wits about you, Mr. Porky Shinwell, that's for true. Let's go to St. Mary's. St. Mary's right here. What do we have on St. Mary's in here? St. Mary's is an Anglican church on Finsbury Square, known for its mid-morning ministries to the poor and hungry. All right, let's go over here, shall we?
I was wondering, Father, if you happen to know a man by the name of Booth Lacey.
I should say that I do. I see him every morning.
At Vespers?
Wish that it were. No, at our soup kitchen. We can pray for the unfortunates of this world, certainly, but we can also offer them a little sustenance of a more nourishing kind. Every morning at 9:30, our doors are thrown open to those less privileged than ourselves. And every morning, without fail, Booth Lacey is here.
You're certain of that?
I am. You see, with only one arm, he needs someone to carry his bowl to the table. Invariably, I am that someone.
You do know that you're being led astray, Mr. Father, I do say so. You know that he's lying to you. He's bearing false witness, he is. The father sees... pardon me. The father sees Lacey every morning at the soup kitchen. We may make it a regular stopping place ourselves. Oh yeah, always the moochers, huh? Moochity, moochity, moochity. Here comes... It's not Minnie the moocher, it's the Baker Street irregular moocher. Ah! Okay. Thomas. Anita or Claire Thomas. Let's have a look-see. Anita Thomas is Tontine ticket holder.
Would you care for some tea?
Thank you, no.
It's really quite good. We were just going to have some ourselves.
I really won't be staying long.
We get visitors so seldom.
Did you know the General?
We suppose he was at the last anniversary banquet. But we don't believe we ever met him. We were so sorry to hear of his death. It is such a pity.
Well, so I imagine you ladies have thought about what you do if you won the tontine money.
We have no living relatives, so there's no one
to share it with should we win.
We need very little to get by on. Undoubtedly, we would leave it to the Ladies' League for the Preservation of Finches.
Good God, I know two birds that I'd never want to hear again. Any man would want to kill himself after 5 minutes with those bats. And I'm guessing that that's Anita and Claire Thomas. These are... I saw a different word. These old biddies made our heads spin, and if you go there yourself, don't take tea. You stay and they'll talk your ear off. Well, looks like that's it. Capoya.
Hear ye, hear ye. The Queen's Court stands in order. I see we have the pleasure of your company today, Mr. Holmes. I understand you've been investigating the murder of General Farnsworth Armstead.
That's correct, my lord, and I believe I have solved the case.
Do you now? Well, then tell me, who murdered the General?
I believe we're to choose from either our notebook or the directory, Holmes.
As usual, Watson, your help is invaluable.
Alright, the murderer is... says the walkthrough, Philip Arnaud.
A brilliantly logical deduction, Holmes.
Thank you, my lord.
Now tell us, why was the General killed?
To get him out of the running for the tontine prize money, to avenge the honor of Arnaud's sister Fleurette, to prevent the publication of the revised edition of Treasures of the Conquerors, or because his marriage of convenience to Mary Fitch. They say the motive is B.
Now tell me, gentlemen, what was the General trying to say when he turned around the figure of Napoleon?
Is it he wasn't trying to say anything? The figure was turned accidentally during the struggle. Is it war, like murder, is an exercise in futility? Was it the sword that killed him was identical to the one Napoleon carried at Waterloo? Or was it his murderer was the actor who was playing Napoleon, Philip Arnaud? Ah, yes, it's D.
Rather clever of the old boy now, wasn't it?
Indubitably. A man who keeps his wits about him to the last has my undying admiration.
I was wondering, just for the record, could you tell us what the General used to call his wife?
Ah, my Fleurette, old moneybags, Horseface, Rich Fitch, it was Horseface.
Congratulations, gentlemen. This was a difficult case.
On the contrary, my lord, it was elementary.
That's what you think.
Yeah,
nonetheless, the good people of London are forever in your debt. We thank you.
My pleasure, my lord.
Yeah, just wait until you see the bad score.
You say you've come up with a solution, and yet you sit there calmly cleaning your meerschaum. Please, Holmes, tell me what you've uncovered.
Of course, Watson. It's quite simple, really. The most intriguing fact about this murder was the method. Mr. Sennett's report that he heard the distinct sound of swordplay struck me as most...
Uh-oh.
You say you've come up with a solution, and yet you sit there calmly cleaning your meerschaum. Please, Holmes, tell me what you've uncovered.
Of course, Watson. It's quite simple, really. The most intriguing fact about this murder was the method. Mr. Sennett's report that he heard the distinct sound of swordplay struck me as most odd. It suggested an affair of honor. At General Armstead's home, my suspicions were confirmed. The old letter addressed to Captain Armstead, a rank he'd held some 40 years ago, suggested that it must have concerned something from the past. Something that was clearly upsetting to him. That was the reason for the duel.
But how can you be so sure there was a duel?
Simple reasoning, my dear Watson. The General had time to place his chair against the wall, climb upon it, and retrieve a saber. The murderer allowed him to arm himself. A duel is the only event that fits with the facts.
Are you sure the caller carried a sword? I thought all he had with him was a carpet bag and a cane.
Perhaps it only appeared to be a cane.
What?
Ah, yes.
We know.
The intruder was described as an old man, yet he left the premises over an 8-foot wall. Clearly he was in disguise and carried off the ruse with enough expertise to completely fool the general's manservant. The carpet bag must have been used as the receptacle of the disguise when it was no longer needed.
Positively clever of you, Holmes. But what made you think it was Arnaud?
Well, since we were looking for someone adept at the art of disguise, Gerard's mention of the actor Philippe Arnaud struck a chord. Also, Arnaud plays Napoleon. No small coincidence.
What are you getting at, Holmes?
When the general turned round at the figure of Napoleon, he was trying to tell us that his murderer was Napoleon. Or rather, the actor playing Napoleon, Philippe Arnaud.
So Arnaud killed the general to avenge his long-dead sister's honor. Ah, well, unlike most of our cases, this motive was closer to the heart than to the pocketbook.
Quite so, Watson. When Arnaud's sister Florette was an impressionable young girl, she fell madly in love with the dashing English captain. When he left, she took her own life.
So pathetic.
Wait, there's more. Florette's grief-stricken mother went mad and was sent into an asylum. Thus, in the twinkling of an eye, little Philippe Arnaud, who was but a child himself, lost both his mother and his sister.
So sad. I'm sure he was too young to understand the circumstances that caused it.
Yes, but 4 decades later it all became clear when he found a letter written by his sister. It yielded an explanation and a name. Armstead. He came to London armed with that letter and a sword cane.
But he was here for several weeks before he did the deed.
Yes, and he might not have done it at all had it not been for the news of his mother's death. That was the final blow. He went straight away to the general's home to take his revenge. Voila.
Positively brilliant, Holmes. How do you do it?
With his pipe cleaner, of course.
My word, dear Holmes. Perhaps we are in the wrong business altogether. If we had been top-notch, we should have cracked this case in 26 points. I think I will ring up the university immediately and see if we might enroll in a detective course.
Fuck you. Well, I can't believe that Watson fucking forgot that he saw the sword cane. Idiot. Maybe that's why our score is so damn high. Well, what can you do? I solved the murders, and that's my score. So, there you go, everybody. That's Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective Volume 1 on TurboGrafx CD. Might as well. And that's it. Alrighty. I've been Skwatter of the Sprites Templar, and I am out. Peace.